Okay, so we're at Tes Zion on the screen, which is in the book on page Reish Lamed Vav. Uvatzei b'shnat tzadik tes. So in the year tzadik tes, which is what we're already talking about here, uh, 787. Okay. Malach mar bar Rav Menashe bar Rav Yosef b'shnas tzadik tes. So he says here in the note on the screen, Rav Menashe, Afuya ben Shloshta Gaonim shetik l'mikveh ksuvas isha ba'achol miyas me'afilu metaltlei. And then we know who signed on this decree, that you decree you collect from Yisrael, even from movable objects, not from real estate. Ve'en Rav Huna Halevi Hagon Pupadisa Rav Menashe Gon Bar Menashe Gon Pupadisa Mar Bibui Halevi Gaon Sura, which goes to come on Perachov Gimel Ostu Gimel. Okay, so we will find out more about them. So Vuhu Mibnei Gava having Gava. What does Gava mean? He was from Gava. Okay, the Girsa here is Vigova, but in the this is a very big issue. He says, "Oh my gosh." Um,
Very
what he says on screen is ridiculous. Ridiculous. We would not say this. He says, "Mizeran is sinim sheyoshim abava haya." Kirpir Rashi brachos yudzayin ameis gava shem uma abava minan shahayu minan sinim. In other words, Gibeonite. He was a Gibeonite of those of those who were forcibly converted, or not forcibly converted, which converted uh, um, superficially at the time of Yeshua, and we knew their superficial conversion at the time of David, and not considered to be actually Jewish. To say that one of the Gaonim was from the Nesinim is something which is unbelievably difficult to say. It's highly unlikely. It's something which we would have known about, and it's something which I can't believe would ever be the case. So therefore, I think that it's the Girsa of Rabbi Rabinowitz, Mi Gova, that he was from a place called Gova. That is the actual um, appropriate Girsa, and nothing to do
well,
with being a Gibeonite and nothing.
no, okay. The Girsa I have is Go V'govahu Mivnei Akuva.
Bimnei Ukva. That's the next part. Yeah, yeah. He's right here. He says on the screen. He says Min Bnei Bei Ukva. So that would be the Gava. He was from the Gibeonites from a place called Beit Ukva, but according to the printed text, where he changes to Viguva to Miguva. Uh, it's interesting. He doesn't actually bring down anybody who makes that change. It's his own change. You see that? It says
Mhm.
Migava, who Mibnei Ukva, and he was a descendant of Ukva. So he says in
Okay.
the Urim, he says, "Ulain iskaven Rabbi Shir going to the Amora b'Shmei Shlishis." So the Dvorav now said Rosh Gol Achrei Ravuna. Maybe he's referring to that Mar Ukva. He in the screen text says Bei Ukva, Kavah Hava. He was a Gibeonite Bei Ukva from the place of Ukva. Not it was with the Machlokes two uh, interpreters we have here is one holds Kavah was what he was, and from a place called Ukva, and the other holds he was from a place called Kavah, and he was from the descendants of Ukva. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
highly unlikely that they're identifying him as Gibeonite. Even if he was one, it's highly unlikely we would identify him as such. Um, if it was, if he was, it would be a tremendously forward-thinking move on the part of the Gaonim to appoint one who was from the Nesinim.
Well,
Okay,
did
so
they? I mean, how long did they know how long were the Nassim around as a separate nation?
I don't know.
Okay, whatever.
Presumably until the end of the period of the Gaonim, things which were known were known. In other words, afterwards they dissipated. But you're right. I don't know that for sure. It's pure speculation. It's quite possible at this time we no longer knew who the Nesiim were in any event. Time of the Gemara, obviously, they didn't know. But this is already 250 years later. So 300, almost 300 years later. So I don't know. It's a
But
good
in the
question.
time of the Gemara, they did know who was from the Sinim.
Well, yeah, yes, they didn't know what time was. That's why he brings down on over here on the bottom, says Masech Kedushin. Right? They say that Shoyim and Asinim, this place, the Guvoi were from the Asinim, so they had at least some knowledge of who was descended
Okay.
from them. Um, okay, so it says, "Uve'ilan shnei kulak onedav mas machas shnas alpha lo nidalon shapila seder." Interesting. It says that all these years, from 589 to 689, which we basically gone through. I don't know exactly. Sure, going. I don't know exactly the going where Masa Machasya in the order. Pisan tapuch ata, and there are upheavals in them. Um, uh, and the Tariasa, it translates as uh, uprisings.
Okay.
Excuse me. The that's how it translates in the text in Rabinowitz. So he wants to. If we look at the text in Rabinowitz, he says on page Reish Lamed Zayin, "Tachnei shebechinas hamemshal lo Yehudi," could be through the on account of the non-Jewish government. Nasta Gaonus guf politi mishpati takif. The Gaonus became a political and judicial body which was tough in the days of the Caliph Ali ibn Abi Talib, and therefore the perhaps that's a Shiragon previously says that the Gaon Yitzhak from Piruz accepted Ali with nice reception.
You gotta speak up.
According that he accepted Ali with a nice reception. According to Ginsburg, the Kiblur Rabbanim Rishus Min HaChalifa Chadash Litzor בנוסף לרשוס הגולה, רשוס תטיס בעלת סמכויות מסוימות, they got permission. This Louis Ginsburg says that they got some additional authority to set up a separate governmental authority. זה מובן מאליו שראש המספתא של סורה ישב בראש הרשוס החדשה הזאת. And the head of the Gaonus of Sura sat at the head of this authority. I guess it was politicized. זה גם היה מובן מאליו שלא תסכים רשוס הכל למשחק תקיף. כגאונוס סורה מבלי להפגין התנגדות כלשהי. And then evidently there was some pushback from the Rosh HaKolah. So then he says, "Itachim perush achel mapechos iskomamios," another interpretation of revolutions and uprisings. Then there was a war for the governance between the descendants of Bustanai's Persian wife, and the descendants of his Jewish wife. So I don't know. He doesn't say that what the Tapuchos and Tariyosa, which he translates here as Iskomios, were. Here it just says in the text on screen, he says that it's the Tafchata and Tariasa were in the historical records, not talking about actual the governmental and political and military upheavals, but upheavals in the records of the history.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but going back to the text, it says the Nesian the Nesian the Ma'abrin and Mahadrin. They used to take people away and bring people back. I think that's what he means. Nesian shows Kufa Shachnas Alpha until the year 1000. You Nogin Kalus Rosh Mina Goinim. They would be frivolous about appointing the Goinim. Payaber Chashiminas Gonam Duve Birumi Tafkido, Milugon Acher Tachtab. Vishubevias Hadash Mitafkido. And then they remove the new guy. Because here's the research required everyone, they put back the old guy that they already removed him. Tokach Notzar Bilbul Gadol Minach Shav Gaon of Ezazman. So again, he's learned that the upheavals were in the relationship between the Nasiim and the Gaonim, and the Rabinowitz is learning that it's going on, the relationships between the Jews and each other, or the Jews and the non-Jews. There was some sort of political turmoil. Okay, so he says, "My department whatever I knew, I already wrote to you. I will mention us but after year 1000, I'm pretty good at this." He says. Um, Alpha ve'elach, and the 100 years from the year 1000 and on. Um, uh, the Prishla Chonka only the Mochapum Padisa, Mochapum Padisa, Eli going from those during the years I told you was going to Padisa. These are ones in Sura. Mar Rav Chinim Har Kod Chameshnim, Mar Rav Niloi Halevi Minarash Yud Cheshonim. Achra Mar Yaakov Akoim Min Har Kod Yud Cheshonim. Achra Mar Rav Shmuel Yud Cheshono. Min Shiva so she was saying Pumbedisa mi bnei banav Shamemraya. He was from Pumbedisa and he went to Sura. And he was a good descendant of Amemar. Vavi Shamar Rav Shmuel Zeh, and the father of this Mar Rav Shmuel who benosha Mar Rav Rabba Gaon. Shekasabnu Shahoya Kom Pumbedisa Bahade Ravuna the Masa Machasim Shas Takonas again. Okay, so then here he mentions the three Gaonim which are involved in Takona of the get, that you should give a get to the to a woman who demands it upon demand. So um, how many were there actually? Uh, I'm not sure how many there were actually. Just saying that he was one of them. Uh, the
There were three.
uh,
So basically you had Gaonian ruling in parallel, one in
one
Sura,
sort
one
of
in
decent, right?
Padisa.
Yeah.
Hmm? Okay.
Uh, he says here in the Burim on page Reish Lamaches, in the last line. Says, "But Masa Machasio Apish the Sura Masa Machasim Shtei Orim Shonos Masura Masa Machasio to them." It says Masa Machasio is a Yishuv Katon. Masa Machasio is a small town, a small part of Sura in the suburb of Sura. Pamim Rabosin in the Nizkeres Malcolm Sura. So so it's used interchangeably. But he does say Avazem Uzar Shem Shir Gom Askiro Sadafka Khan Kmokim Mishma Dabo Lon Ko Sachem Mishim Azu. Question: why all of a sudden he reverts to the old name? And Masa Machasi was the name from the time of the Gemara. And during the time the Gemara was called Sura. So it's a little bit strange that here he calls him Masa Machasi. I don't know, maybe the yeshiva has changed addresses from time to time. In any event, Masa Machasi and Sura are the same place. Um, uh,
Okay.
so he explains, became love of Maras Machasi man the Mafli b'Chachma. Kavasei, since the Maras Machasi is nobody who was at the same level of Chachma as this um,
Oh, sure.
this Mar of Shmuel, yeah. Kashakle Shlomo bar Chizdoy Reish Galusa, Shlomo Chizdoy the Reish Galusa. Took him mani Maras Machasi, and he pointed him Machasi. V'Chacham Gadaya. He's a great sage. Ubenoy b'Pumpadisa, and his children made him Pumpadisa. These means our hashtag Kadmonim is Sifta, and some of his sons are now in front of us in the yeshiva. Umanun man the minhom man the Chasnaban, and some of them are married with us. Okay, so they're concerned with yichus even back then.
Okay.
Ubasrei ma Rav Morekom min Hakoim min Harpkot Ches Shanin. He was for 8 years. Uh, uh, okay, then Ubasrei ma Ravacha Tishano. Okay, half a year. Um, Uvasrei Mar Rav Yudoi Bar Mar Rav Nachman Shloshim Mechza. Punaim Pumbedisa is also Pumbedisa. Below we command Mar Chachma Sura Kavasei, and there's nobody as sage, sagacious, and Sura as him. Vafunami Shakle Shlomo Nesiyah. He was saying by Shlomo Nesiyah Mani Losam, who um the don't point him there, and here also Rabbi Benz points out it's kind of like inconsistent. That some place calls him the Reish Galusa, and someplace he calls him the Nasi, but it's the same person. Uh, he was blind. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, evidently that's the Rebbe says not clear why he's mentioning it here. Uh, but somebody evidently in footnote 10 says no, it's an important point to know. But it doesn't say why it's an important point to know. Does it say here why? No, it does not say why. It seems important because he was, even though he was blind, he was obviously a proficient in wisdom.
Mhm.
Okay, so they were both Gaonim and uh, I guess one in Sura, one in Pumbedisa. Both Yamin Basrei Nafak Anan. And after him came Anan. Uh, the it says in the text on screen, Anan ben David, Miased Kata Karaim. He was, this is in the years, in the mid 700s, we're talking about
Mhm.
759. Anan came and founded the group of Karaites, Shedem Aminim El Mikra, only believe in Tanakh, Mishnah V'Tal Mashar Midrashim. Shiftar Rosh HaGolah, Rav Shlomo Bar Chasidoi. She'ado Shel Anan, when the Rosh Galusa, Rav Shlomo Chasidoi died, and he was Anan's uncle, because Anan Shivcharu the Rosh Golah Menkom L'Adoi, Anan requested that he be made Rosh Golah instead of his uncle. Avachach Me Yeshiva She'adus Kfira. So, they knew he had become this Karite. Bachur Ba'achiv Chananya Akotim Imena. They chose his brother Chananya, who was younger than him. Tokach Halach Anon Zehara. On a went Vikim Kas Atzmo, Vinatzmo Rosh Gola, Lay made himself any Rosh Gola. The 80 wrote Sel Archi Binyan Zeh. I don't want to spend time on this. Kimagavasi Larich Bukabach Chachayim Masayim. The Todo Sam, Below Todo Sam Shoyim. Okay, that's nice of him. He doesn't care about so much about
Yeah, I don't remember where I read it, but it was all political.
right. He
Why?
brings it down in brief in the footnote in the Buren page Reish Mem. Anan Shemesh Shlomo Rosh Hashanah 759. Let's figure out notes him. Hari Yoshoy Gani Anan. Anan would be the logical successor. Bechor ben Shnei Bnei Achiv, the Bechor of his two nephews. Kanresha Konim. Stem Rab Yudoy, Rab Dudoy, who are the two brothers we mentioned. Pikbakub of Yovim and social Anan, they had doubts already about the personality and the beliefs of Anan. So that they rejected him. After Khalif certified the choice of the younger brother, Anan refused to accept the decision. Besides, that's more Rosh Gola, made himself the Rosh Gola. Zenachshav Kimered Beinei Muslimin. This is considered by a revolt by the Muslims. With some also base Asar, and they put him in the prison. When he was released, Toyanam Alesina Klape Rabbanim. Dana was full of hatred to the rabbis. Ubadam Libo Das Chadashah. He created himself his new religion. Who kafar b'Torah Shabbat Vishum Mofia b'Talmud. He denied Torah Shabbat as is in the Talmud. Kibel Rakas Torah Shabbat. Chenikru Eloshim Shlochorav Karaim. Hamarim Rak Mikra. They're called Karaites because leave only Mikra. The Tashbeit says the reason why Jews call each other Rabbi or Reb in Yiddish is in order to distinguish ourselves from the Karaites. I don't know if I ever told you that before. It's a very important piece of information, which is very significant. So all this idea of Reb so and so comes from that calling each other Rabbani as opposed to Karai. Okay.
Hmm.
Sometimes you even see the term. It's very rarely used nowadays, but sometimes you see the term used Harabani. And I don't think people know what it means anymore. But it was honorific, which meant somebody which followed the rabbi as opposed to following the Karaites. The way the story goes, the legend, I don't know, he doesn't bring it down here, but the legend is that while in prison, the Anan was going to be taken out as and executed as a rebel against the Muslims. And somebody came to him. I don't remember somebody in prison suggested him that no, tell them you're not a rabbinite. Tell them you have your own religion. You're not rebelling against the authority of the rabbis because you have your own religion. And in the Muslim kingdom, there was the caliphate was freedom of religion. So Anan came and said, "Yeah, I'm not one of them. I have my own religion. I'm a Karaite," and that's how he was saved from execution because he demonstrated that he was not a rebelling Jew, but a uh, founder or leader of a new religion. Okay. Uh, 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 Ubasar Mar Yorvidai Mar Rav Chunoi Kana Bar Mar Rav Papa Chasharin. Ubasar Mar Rav Chaninoi Kana Bar Mar Ravuna Hey Shonim. Vasei Mar Rav Mori Halevi Bar Rav Masharshia Kimoshem Mechza. Vasei Mar Bar Rav Bibi Halevi Biboy Halevi Bar Mar Rav Amar Kod Esrei Mechza. Who are you? And he was by the second takana. Voya Imar Ravuna Bar Mara Levi Bimar Bar Menashe Megoni Pumbedisa. Shetiknu was interesting. The two going in Pumbedisa simultaneously. That's rare. Um, but he says that I don't know why. I don't know if he mentioned before there were two going in Pumbedisa, but Shetiknu when they made it, that kind of mikvek Lemikvek Balchom Itatle V'ilu Tumas Mea Shana, and this is the end of the 100 years from 689 to 790 according to the non-Jewish calendar, and both the written text and the screen text start a new chapter here. So this is a good place to come to a halt for today.
Okay, shkoyach.
Okay, there's a lot of notes in the next chapter. Okay,
Some call.
have a great week.
You too.
Goodbye.
Talk to you later. Bye.